Hello guys, welcome back. Welcome to video 22 of this advanced level framework development series on Selenium Test Automation. So till now I spoke on creation of framework where we did created a thread set framework where multiple test cases can execute in parallel. Okay, so this video number 22 I'll be talking about setting up Dockerized Selenium Grid for parallel test execution. So let me go to Notepad, and so we spoke till now with how to create a framework. So framework creation we are good with. We did create a couple of framework, basic level framework where we had a thread set driver, and we created an advanced level framework where we have a thread set driver, and it supports a parallel test execution along with good reporting capabilities, good logging capabilities, and data driven framework, and few other features we did incorporated, right? DB connectivity and all. I wanted to include email part as well, but somehow I could not. Maybe I'll try to add a couple of videos on email part as well, email verification part. Fine. So till now we are good to write the test cases, and if you go to my YouTube channel you can find all the basic level and advanced level courses. Okay, so if you go to playlist, so here I have a playlist for advanced level and for basic level, which are purely on framework development part. Okay, so you can refer them. Now coming to today's video. So till now we did created a framework and we are good with framework creation part. Now the point comes on execution. Now I'm done with my test case creation, test case development. Now I want to execute my test cases. Maybe now, or maybe let's say going forward each month, or release by release, or could be daily smoke or weekly smoke. I want to run it, right? So a couple of things. Now how I'm going to execute them. So the very first thing, I can try executing them on my local machine, but let's say if I have thousands of test cases or a couple of thousands of test cases, literally it will take a huge time, and that is not at all possible to execute them on my local machine. Also, normally we do trigger the test execution if I have a lot of test cases over the nightly build, and that happens mostly via Jenkins, right? So you local machine, okay, it's like, okay, if I have 5 or 10 test cases, I can go ahead and execute it on my local, but if I have a good number, then that's purely not possible using your local machine. The second part is using Selenium Grid. Okay, so Selenium Grid is something which is totally recommended by Selenium guys, and that's the only purpose for developing Selenium Grid, only for test execution, for parallel test execution, for cross-platform test execution, for cross-browser test execution, right? So Selenium Grid is a concept for parallel test execution, belongs to Selenium only, right? Now in Selenium Grid, okay, let's say for a while, let's say if you don't want to implement Selenium Grid in your organization, if you don't want to spend the time and cost on that infrastructure for setting up Selenium Grid, maybe you can go ahead and check out the what alternative we have is like the stack. We have something called as Sauce Lab, and couple of more we have, right? So these are the ready-made vendors which provides the Selenium Grid capability for your test execution with lot of variations on platforms and browsers, browser versions and regions. Okay, so you can have a look on that. I have dedicated video for that as well in this particular series, CI/CD for automation testers. But for these specific things, this browser stack or Sauce Lab or whatever vendors we have, they are not open source. They have a huge cost involved in that, right? So finally, it comes as setting up Selenium Grid by our own. Okay, now setting up Selenium Grid. Now what are the points we should matter before we set up the execution environment or Selenium Grid into our organization? Very first thing for me it matters is speed. I should have a very good execution speed. Let's say if I have 1,000 test cases, and let's say if one test case takes almost 2 minutes, then total it will take, let's say, 2,000 minutes for execution if I am executing it only on one instance. But let us say if I divide it 4 or 5, it will take, say, only 500 minute for execution, or in fact I can divide it more. So how I can divide this? By setting up execution on multiple instances, and how that is going to happen? Via Selenium Grid. So let me take you through a concept of Selenium Grid, though I'm not going to explain it in very detail. If I go to this selenium.dev documentation, that's the official documentation site for Selenium. Okay, and if I go to this grid part, so under grid you see and functionality. So we all know why we need a Selenium Grid. It is for scaling, it is for running test cases in parallel, it is for cross platform testing. As I was saying, you can execute your test cases on Linux machine, Windows machine, Mac machine. You can have cross browser testing, Firefox, you can have Chrome, you can have Safari, whatever browsers we have. You can have proper load balancing and test case distribution. Okay, so for all these purposes we have something called as Selenium Grid. So there are grids available, grid 3 and grid 4. So grid 4 comes with the latest version, Selenium version 4, which is not stable, which is still an alpha release. Beta release will come, then the final stable release will come. Not sure how much time it will take. Minimum it should take a 6 month or something. Let's see. So I did try this grid 4, but I don't find it much stable. So I did went ahead and explored grid 3. Okay, so grid 4 and grid 3 both are having totally different concepts. Okay, so I mean, overall concept remains same. Parallel test execution, you want to distribute your test cases on multiple nodes. Overall concepts remain same, but their internal architecture is totally different. That's fine. Whenever Selenium Grid 4 launches, we'll see that. Coming to Selenium Grid 3, what and all components we have for Selenium Grid? So for Selenium Grid 3, we have two main components, your hub component and node. Client. Client is something from where you are going to trigger your execution. Let's say I want to trigger my test execution from my local machine. So my local machine is my client machine. Let's say I want to trigger test execution from Jenkins. In that case, Jenkins will be treated as client machine. From Jenkins or from a local machine, whenever I trigger the execution, it will go to the hub machine. So this hub and node both are the part of Selenium Grid only. So whenever we set Selenium Grid infrastructure, we'll have both the things, hubs and nodes. So hub is a separate machine whose job is to distribute the test cases across available nodes. And your node is nothing but it's the actual machine where the actual test execution is happening, right? So your node may be Mac machine, Windows machine, Linux machine, and you can have lot many different browsers installed or different versions installed. So based on what Z capability setting you have in your test cases, when you trigger the execution, your request will go to the hub, and based on the desired capabilities, it will try to look for the respective node. Let's say I want to execute my test cases on Windows machine with let's say Chrome browser on version 81. So it will go to the hub, and in hub, I mean whatever I spoke now, all those things we need to specify in desired capabilities. So those things will go to the hub. Now hub will look for, okay, do I have any node with Windows machine? Yes. Do I have any Chrome? Yes. Do I have the version what is requested by end user? Yes. Then test execution will happen on that particular node. Okay, so that's a pretty simple concept. Now coming to set up your Selenium Grid. Now there are two ways setting up Selenium Grid manually on different machines. Okay, so if I go to these components again, so here as I told, hub is a separate machine, this node is separate machine, this node is separate machine, this node is separate machine, all nodes are separate machine. So let's say I want to execute test cases on 5 nodes. So I should be having 5 machines and 1 hub machine. So I should have total 6 machines. Okay, but now I don't want to invest that much into this infrastructure part, right? So what I will do is I will search for some better alternative. Okay, and the better alternative for that is something called as Docker, what we are going to talk now. Okay, now generally setting up this Selenium Grid infrastructure is I would not say complicated, but it has 3 to 4 steps involved. For that, you need to get this Selenium server standalone jar, and then you need to execute this command from your hub machine. Then couple of where is my node machine? Yeah, then this particular command from your node machine, and it will get linked. Okay, so that's bit a tedious process. Rather, we will talk about this Dockerized Selenium Grid. Okay, so whatever infrastructure we saw, right, multiple nodes and all those stuff, so that is easily available on Docker. Now there is a term called as Docker. Now what is Docker? Okay, so Docker is a set of platform as a service, and uses OS level virtualization. Okay, when I say OS level virtualization, now we might be aware about lot of virtual machines. We do created a lot of virtual machines using VirtualBox, and nowadays we get virtual machine very easily on any cloud platform, GCP, AWS, or any other, right? But those are kind of separate machine itself that cost used to me, right? And even if I think I am going to create VirtualBox or virtual machine on my local machine itself, that is going to share the resources, right? So my all machine resources will get divided in that case. But the very lightweight alternative to virtual machines is Docker. Docker provides you the operating system level virtualization. Okay, so it is basically used to deliver the software in packages, which is called as containers. Okay, so we will say about the terms containers and images. Okay, so containers are isolated from each other and they bundled together, and we call it as a software. Okay, so I already have these things covered in one of my course called as CI/CD for automation testers. Okay, so if I go to this course and if I go to the playlist, okay, so here I already talked about where is Docker? Yeah, so Docker installation on Windows. So for installation part, you can refer Docker installation, for Docker command, and Docker introduction. So you can refer these 3 videos. Okay, and here I did spoke about Selenium Grid as well, but that is by using some different way. There I didn't spoke about Docker Compose, which is a very good and one-liner to set up my Selenium Grid infrastructure. So I'll talk on that today. Okay, how to install Docker, what are different Docker commands, and Docker introduction and all. You can have a look on this particular videos. Okay, now as I said, Docker as a OS level virtualization, where we can create, like what I was showing is we need multiple nodes for parallel test execution. Those number of nodes are going to get created into a single machine itself under Docker. Okay, how? We'll see that. Before that, uh, okay, so I already have Docker installed into my machine. So here, right, for requisite, they are saying you should have Docker installed. So if you go to this particular URL, it will take you to install the Docker, and it's the straightforward process as like how we install a normal software. Now here you see one link called as Docker Selenium repository. I'll go to this link, and that's going to be the GitHub repository. Okay, and you see it is updated 7 days ago. Today's date is 29th and 2020, and this particular development is for Selenium Grid 4, which is still in development and in alpha stages. Alpha 6 is out. Sorry, alpha 7 is out. Okay, but as I said, I did try this and I don't find it stable enough for test execution. So we can go to the Selenium 3 branch, which is stable, and the latest, I would say the last release is 3.141.59 what Selenium had. So for each Selenium release, this Docker community is creating the Docker images, right? So images is nothing but you can call it as just a software, right? You can just call it as a software image or software. That could be your, for example, your .exe file or .jar file or whatever .msi file you have, right? So those things you can call it as a images, right? So all these images are present all those codes for those images is present over here, and code get pushed into Docker Hub, from where we are going to download that. Okay, now what I was telling you is we are going to create this kind of infrastructure, right, where we are going to have one hub machine, okay, and we are going to have multiple nodes machine. Okay, multiple nodes machine, that can be your Chrome node, Firefox node, or Opera node. Your Internet Explorer or Edge is not supported under Docker. So for setting up, we need three things. We need Selenium Hub. So Selenium Hub is an image of your Selenium Grid. Okay, then we have something called as Selenium Node Chrome and Selenium Node Firefox, Selenium Node Opera. Let's say I want to create an infrastructure where I want to have only two things, Chrome and Firefox, on my hub machine, and how many Chrome instances I want, how many Firefox instances I want, that we can decide at runtime. For now it is not required. Okay, so what I need is mainly I need two things, Selenium Hub and Selenium Node Chrome and Node Firefox. So if I simply go to Google and type Selenium Hub Docker, it will take me to something called as hub.docker.com, which is the central location where all the Docker images are stored. Just like how we have Maven repository, all Docker images will be stored over here, which we need to download in our machine. Right. So for downloading the images into your machine, the very first thing is you should have installed into your machine. So you can follow my that video. Once Docker is installed, you can confirm it by using docker -- version. It will tell you what version of Docker you have installed. If this command doesn't work, that means the Docker is not installed successfully. You can have a look on that, why it is not installed. Okay, now what I told you is from this particular repository I need three things: Selenium Hub, Selenium Node, and Selenium Node Chrome and Node Firefox. How to get them? So Selenium Hub, you can go here and you see something called as docker command. That is, you executing this particular command, you are going to download the latest version of Selenium Hub into your machine. Right, that is going to be the Docker image for Selenium Hub. If you want the older version, go under tags, and under tags you will be finding a lot of different versions available over here. See, alpha 7 release and version 0.14.59 and version whatever, right? Each release they have released by month or something. So you can use this, you can copy the respective command and you can execute this command in your command prompt. Docker pull whatever version you need. By default, whenever you do not specify any version over here, that will pull the latest image from Docker Hub. Not able to do that. Let me get the latest version. I'll say docker pull Selenium Hub. Let me put here and let me hit enter. And you see, using the default tag latest, and it will download it now in your machine. So if you are doing it first time, it will take a long time based on your internet speed. For me, it is already downloaded, so it should not download it again. Okay, so I'll show you that. After that, you can do the similar thing for Selenium Node Chrome and Selenium Node Firefox. In fact, you need not to do these things manually. Right now, again, when the things comes to setting up the Dockerized Selenium Grid, there are two things. The very first thing is you can download these three things manually. Is the images, this one, and Firefox one. You can download these three images manually, and then you can run them. How to run the Docker images? Using docker run -d for detached mode, -v for specifying the internal external port, -v for volume mounting, and then what image you want to execute. Okay, so this is for standalone setup. If you want individual image running, then you can execute this command. But I want to set Selenium Grid and Hub and Node, right? So you can execute these four commands. Right, what you can do is first you can create a network, just some I would say area under which you are going to create this. Then you are going to run your Selenium hub, and then you are going to run your Chrome node, a Firefox node, Opera node. So these 5 commands you need to run in your command prompt, and that is what I have explained into my CI/CD for automation testers course. Okay, now let's say I don't want to execute all these commands one by one every time and all the stuff. Okay, so what I will do is, you see, it is pulling, and it is not pulled because it says the image is already up to date. Okay, now we saw 2 commands. First one is docker pull to pull the image into your machine, and then docker run. Now let's say I want to find out what and all images I have already downloaded, so I should use docker images, and it will give me what and all images I already have downloaded on my machine. So I already have Selenium hub, Selenium node, Selenium node, Firefox node. Okay, I have all of them. Now coming to so this part I'm not going to take, whereas I'm going to take something called as via doc compose. So whatever step we are doing this manually, right? So all this stuff we are going to do in a single click. Okay, and that is via something called as docker compose. So docker compose is a part of docker, right, where you can write all the instructions into single file called as docker compose.yml, and you can execute that file, right? So if I walk you through one of the uh, file, okay, or let me take the file from my what I have basically. Okay, so I have docker compose file over here. Okay, okay, what I'll do is, let me continue. Okay, so here is the file docker compose.yml, and you see hash, those are comments where I have just mentioned how to execute this yml file, and here you see 3 services. So what I need one hub machine, so this is for hub service. Then I need one Chrome machine, this is my Chrome service, and I need something called as Firefox machine, Firefox service. So initially under hub, so this hub is just a keyword. Okay, so under hub I need to specify what image you want. So this is my Selenium hub, right? You can specify exact version here if you want, otherwise it will pull the latest version. Okay, port setting, what should be the internal port and external port. Environment, under environment you can specify maximum sessions and timeout settings, you can update over here. Okay, now this will create a hub machine for me. Now when it comes to the Chrome, okay, for Chrome, what's the image, so it will pull this particular image. Now depends on what it will do, so it will not execute this Chrome service before it executes hub service, because this Chrome service depends on hub. That's the reason. So initially hub will get executed, then it will execute Chrome service, or I would say it will start the Chrome service, right? So here what's the port and all, and volume where your data will get stored, and should link to the hub machine, right? My Chrome service should start, and this will create my Chrome node, and the Chrome node should link to this particular hub service, right? Similarly for Firefox service, all the stuff whatever I just explained it for Chrome. If you want, you can add how many maximum number of sessions you want under this environment over here. Okay, that would be something like max hyphen sessions. I don't remember the exact command, you can just google out, and let's say you can put something like max sessions, let's say 5. So it will create maximum 5 sessions of Chrome uh, when we execute this particular YAML file. Okay, in my case what I'll do is, I'm not going to provide any number of sessions, I will simply remove that, because I just want to create one session, and once the session is created I want to scale it based on my requirement, right? Now once we execute this docker compose.yml file, it is going to create a hub machine and couple of node machine, which is my Chrome node and Firefox node. Okay, so the basis for my next video is this particular compose file, by using which, by executing this docker compose file, we are going to create a dockerized Selenium Grid infrastructure. Okay, before that, so this particular repository you can navigate from selenium.dev, and these are the few commands basically I tried to list over here. Okay, so for Docker we already know how to download Docker images. Okay, and one more quick point, so if I am using this Docker compose, I need not to make sure like, okay, this is already downloaded on my machine or not. If it is downloaded, that's fine. Otherwise it will check, okay, if it is present on your local, fine. Otherwise it will download the latest version or whatever version you have specified from Docker Hub. Okay, so you need not to download these images manually by using Docker, not required. Docker run is to run the containers, to run the images so that it will be converted into containers. Okay. Now there are two different terms I'm talking. The first term I'm talking as an image, and second terms I'm talking as a container. Right, so image, you can simply say whenever you, let's say you want to install VLC player, right? So what you will do is vlc.exe is something you are going to download from VLC net. Okay, so that is something we call it as an image. But when you install vlc.exe, is actually going to install VLC player into your machine, right? So this is the actual running version of VLC. Right, so that's the same concept over here. Image is just a software, whereas its running instance or running instance of image we call it as a container. So Selenium Hub, I have the image, but when we run that particular image, will be treated as a container. Okay, so to get a list of all running containers, we can use docker-a. So what I have told you is how to get the list of all the images, docker images, but these are just the images downloaded on my local machine. So I would say Docker machine. Okay, these are not the running instances, right? So to find out the running instances, I need to use something called as docker-a. Here you see container ID, image, and all those stuff, and I don't have any container running over here, so it's blind. Okay, so if you want to start any container, if you want to stop any container or remove container, if you want to get list of images, if you want to remove any images, you can have a try on all these commands. I have already explained these commands in very detail into this particular video. You can see over here something called as various Docker commands. Okay, so I'm not going to explain all of again, but in our next video we are going to see uh, how we can run this docker.yml file, and how our Selenium Grid infrastructure will looks like, and how we are going to execute the test cases on Selenium, Dockerized Selenium Grid. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to stop this video over here. Stay tuned for next video. Thank you.